It was one of the most life-changing, if it were not for my daughter and getting married.
Welcome to another episode of Revolutionary Detox. I am so happy because I have a guest that has already been on the show, but he is so important in my life. He has had a huge impact in my life. He's actually one of my mentors, and I think he has so much knowledge to share with all of you today. So help me welcome James. How are you, James?
I'm good, thank you. I appreciate being here for the second time. Am I the first person that's been on here twice?
Yep.
Oh, I appreciate it.
You really are.
But thank you for the compliments. I don't mind helping whatsoever.
Thank you. James, why don't you tell them what you do, some of your side hustles or hobbies. What is that you do so that they get to know you a little bit more?
Yeah, so my name is James Areago. I work for a Fortune 100 company here in Boston. Work, I guess, in strategy, you would say, in the underwriting space for an insurance company. And side hustles, as the host is mentioning, I don't have any side hustles. I do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of community-based work here in Boston, and I've also done it in other locations as well. So my side hustles has been relatively helping others and helping Giselle as she's making her way through school and her professional career.
Thank you. One of the reasons why I brought him again is because he has been able, I have interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs here on the show, but James has the ability to utilize his company as a way to make an impact and also live what makes him feel like he's living his purpose, which is that helping, that serving that he really likes and feel anointed to be doing. So James, first of all, when did you start this mentoring journey? I know you said from high school you have even started, but when did you start this mentoring journey, and how did you partner with your current company to now do these big programs that you're now doing?
It's a good question. Mentoring for me started, like you said, in high school. So I grew up single parent household. My mom took care of me. Really don't have a relationship with my father whatsoever. So I always thought it was important to give back to young black men who were going through similar situations. Not every student or kid I mentored at the time had that similar background, but I would say about 7 out of 10, that's usually the story. There's always this hurdle, this like barrier that you have to kind of break through in order to make your way from boy to man when you don't have a man kind of guiding you through that. So I took it upon myself to try to help with that transition because, like Hope says, like I go through it so that way you wouldn't have to. So I've made it a point to do that as I've gotten older in age, and now that I'm working for the company that I'm working for now, but even prior to that, I've always thought these multi-million, billion-dollar organizations have so many resources that can be leveraged to impact any community. It doesn't matter, black, white, Latin, Asian. You can name any particular grouping or group of people. This organization could definitely help.
Yes.
I think of a conversation that I had with Sean Rochester, who wrote a book called The Black Tax. And he talked about if you took 10%, not even 10%, you just took 1% of Harvard's endowment, you can literally almost end poverty in like certain cities.
Yes.
And that's what these organizations sit on. And if we think at every Fortune 100 company, I think 2% of their earnings is really invested in minority communities. I could be misstating that, but I think that's what I remember from the book. 2% is such a small amount. So how can we leverage our resources as a people, as an organization, as a community to help others? And that's what I've been pushing my organization to do. DEI is such a huge word, and I hate to call it a word, but that's really what it is. It should be just a way of life. We shouldn't even have to be saying DE&I, but because it's been such a huge force in my organization at this time, like I've been using that as a way to push forward and try to make change faster. So that comes with the mentoring and doing different programs, trying to be different. It's just been a drive of mine, just because I remember when I was younger, I wanted someone to kind of do that for me.
Yeah. For those that don't know, DE&I stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which is a department right now that corporates and companies have to move forth the diversity within and inclusion within their organization. But something that you said was utilizing, right, the spaces and the resources that they have to help these communities. How did you do that? Where did you start? And who did you speak to, and what struggles did you encounter? Because it's not easy, I'm supposing.
No, anytime you're working with any organization that has scale, you're always going to run into historical hurdles. Things are done this way because they've been done this way in the past, and we typically don't change it. And that's the case for almost any function within an organization. So there's no difference when it comes to talent or recruitment. So when I started getting involved in diversity recruiting, I want to say it was probably about 2018, 19, which is when I met you, correct? So a few of the interns you got connected with, I helped recruit them. That required some capital equity that I had to use of mine and of others who are of influence within the organization to kind of get beyond, again, the barrier, the hurdles that are in the way to do something different. Did I receive some hate? Did people try to throw me under the bus? Did people try to get me fired? Yes. And even now, as I continue to stay involved in diversity recruiting, it's the same thing. As you know, we launched a pretty huge program for HBCUs. I'm a proud Howard alum, so just want to put that on the camera. So we launched a program that specifically recruits interns from Howard University. And even with doing that, there was always this impression that we can't do something different because this is how things go, and because you're not in that particular space, there is always going to be a question of, well, why are you having these type of conversations? And if I take a step back, I can understand from that perspective, you're not in recruiting, so why would you be doing this? Because if I came to your space, you would have an issue. But I think that's, again, to our corporate culture of just wanting to keep things to yourself. This is my job because it's all tied to your financial performance. You want your money. I completely understand. So I get why sometimes it comes with some unwanted attention from certain people, but ultimately I'm not going to stop. It's important to me. I've been charged with doing something like this. I truly feel this is a divine calling, if you will, to make a difference. And I mean, throw me under the bus is whatever, but you got to be willing to take the consequences.
That's right. So you mentioned that there is a risk when you follow what you feel you're called for, that is not going to come easy. How do you take care of you while still serving, right?
That's another damn good question. To be honest, it is different because pre-COVID, I would have taken vacation. I would have had some type of, I'm going to take some days off just to relax, hang out with friends, something. But with COVID and having a child and my wife, is well, I can't do certain things because if I go out somewhere, there's the risk of getting sick and bringing it home. So I've always been cautious. I've been super cautious now to do anything that could potentially put my family at risk or myself. But self-care is something I've been talking to my therapist about the past few weeks. And I'm thinking about going on vacation next year. I have a vacation coming up for my birthday in a few weeks. I went shopping. I bought a few things. I went to the spa a few weeks ago. So just like trying to reward myself for the year that I've had, and it hasn't been easy. It's been a very tumultuous year, but there's been a lot of success this year as well. So you take the good with the bad. But overall, these last few weeks of the year, my plan is to just reflect and think a little bit more about self-care, the things that I can do that matter to me and make me happy. Not to say that my wife or my child or my friends, family, like not to say that their happiness doesn't matter, but mine does.
Absolutely.
So making sure that I attend to myself first, so that way I can be a better mentor to you, or I can be a better husband, I can be a better father, I can be a better friend, cousin, brother, professional, etc.
So something that James is mentioning is that he doesn't have it together. And I think that a lot of us have that misconception that we need to have it together in order to make it or go to the next level. And that's not the case. While he is achieving all of these amazing goals and making this impact in his organization and helping all of these minority communities and so forth, he's also figuring out a balance with his personal life. And that's okay. You don't need to have it together. You don't need to have that balance right now. But what he's doing is that he's taking that leap of faith and he's taking that risk and making that step to do what he feels is calling him. But my next question to you, James, is you said you need to prioritize yourself, right? And he goes to therapy. So therapy is a way of taking care of yourself, even though you still try to figure things out. Where do you find that, I wouldn't say balance, but like that space, right? Because you're a husband, you're a father. Because I know a lot of people wear a lot of hats, and sometimes they don't know where can they find their own space. So how do you find your own space for you, James?
Again, pre-COVID,
I'll get out.
I probably would have
run away.
Exactly. I used to do, when I was younger, I used to do a lot of walking. I used to just go outside. It wouldn't matter what the temperature was. I would just go outside, walk, reflect. That used to be my thing. And then as I got older, I used to just go outside and drive and just turn the radio off, sit and reflect. I haven't found that yet. Something that I'm thinking about for next year is meditation.
Ooh, I love that.
I haven't done that before, but it's something that so I'm thinking about going to Japan next year. And I was thinking about, you might laugh, but I'm thinking about taking like samurai classes or ninja classes, right? I'm a huge fan of Ninja Turtles. And I've always wanted to like have the Ninja Turtle weapons. Like I wanted the bow, the sai, and I wanted all that stuff. So I've always been infatuated with visiting Japan for some reason. And when I was reading about the classes, they talked about spending time teaching meditation. I was like, oh, I never thought of that. Like it wasn't anything I've ever sat back and was like, you know what, maybe I should try that. So I'm still, as she said, I don't have it all together, even though that sounds kind of foul. But
I don't have it all together myself.
I am thinking about like, how do I create that space where I can just sit and reflect. Historically, I don't take a lot of time to reflect on accomplishments, failures, anything. Like I spend my time looking forward. I'm not saying I don't reflect, but usually I achieve something. We've texted before. You'll say congratulations to me and I'll say, oh great, thanks. And then
move on.
5 hours later I'm like, hey, did you finish whatever you were supposed to? Did you study for such and such? Like I tend not to sit and thinking like, okay, how could I have done that better, or what went well, or just sitting just like, damn, I did that. You know, like I've had a really good year and I've also had a very bad year. But I do need to find that space, and therapy has started to help me create that. And my wife gives me the space to do so, which is helpful, and I give her the same space for her to have her free time during therapy as well. But I do need to find that space where I can just sit and relax, because it can't just be the 1 hour that I spend with my therapist. I have to find that time where I can just sit and just like sit in my thoughts and think and kind of deal with the gremlins that come with it.
What are you looking to achieve now in this new year of 2022 when it comes to that calling of mentorship?
Man, I don't know.
And I love the response. I love that. You don't have to know.
Yeah, I really don't know, man. Again, as you know, like I've done a lot of stuff this year when it comes to mentoring and providing access, exposure to underrepresented communities.
He got like 2 or 3 awards in 2021. He's being humble about it.
I appreciate it. I have to figure it out, and again, that's what I'll be spending these next couple weeks. Like I started thinking, like, what do I want to, again, self-care, thinking about myself first, even though that seems selfish, but I started taking Spanish classes because I want to take a new language. I wanted a new challenge. There's other community-based things that are kind of already in the works, or at least we're having beginning conversations about with my fraternity members. So we're starting to do that. There's a few other things through the programs at my organization that we're going to be, moving forward with, expanding the program. So outside of that, which already sounds like a lot.
Yeah, you say you don't know, but you know.
I know a few things, but like, what else can I do? There's so much more that I could potentially give. I just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things that sticks out is poverty. I've always wanted to get involved in that to some degree. I just don't know how yet. And I'm waiting for that calling to just say, like, here you go. And it's like, all right, I got it.
And take it on. I like when you say, I like how vulnerable and open you are about saying that you don't know. I feel like sometimes we want to have all the answers, but we don't have to have all the answers. And as you can see, James is a mentor. He's a guider. He's somebody that guides people through difficult journeys that they are, whether it is in school, whether it is in their professional world and at work. But he himself is so open about saying, I also don't know. But you are so open to listening to whatever it is that the universe is saying and going with whatever step is that feels correct. Have you had any limitations with yourself? I know you say you didn't grow up with a father, and how has that impacted you, and how do you fight those negative thoughts?
Yeah, so I read this book by Brene Brown. It's called Undaringly something. I can't remember the name, but she's a very famous psychologist, therapist, who writes several self-help books. And she talked about gremlins. And usually it's like, say you're in class, you fail a test, and then you hear something that says, like, you're stupid, that's why you failed it. And then you hear something else that's like, we're not going to graduate. And then you hear something like, well, if we don't graduate, we won't have a job. And then all these negative thoughts, and she labeled them gremlins. And then she said, well, just ask why. And I think I've actually done that with you. I asked you why, and then you provided a response, and then I said, well, why? And then you provided another response, and then I said, well, why? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, well, there you go. Like, if you can't prove it, then
It's not true.
It's not true. I didn't have that resource when I was like 7, 8, 9. And I actually remember the conversation that I had with my mom when I figured out that my father wasn't coming back. I want to say I was like 8 or 9. And I found out that, so my father's from Ghana. He went back to Ghana, and he pretty much just left us. And we found out through like other family members that he had a whole nother family. Like, he had 2 other kids, actually one at the time. And I was just like, what did I do? You know, like, why would he leave us and just go create a whole nother family? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. And I remember just bawling. I remember I was sweeping the kitchen and I was crying, and my mom came out to me, and my mom is not emotional whatsoever. She came over and she hugged me, and she was like, don't worry about it, I got you. And that was the most loving moment that I will always remember about my mom. But the gremlins never stopped from that moment. They just multiplied. And it was just always like a why. And even through college and professional life, I was still having them. And my first job out of college, terrible, like completely awful. The environment was garbage. I couldn't find a mentor, didn't understand what a sponsor and a mentor meant. And I went, after I removed myself from that place, went back to school, I thought, let me go to therapy, let me start working through these things. And then I decided, like, you know what, I'm just going to go have the conversation with him. At that point, I hadn't seen my father in 17 plus years or so. And I've already developed a relationship with my younger brothers. Like, I'm kind of seen as the brother-father figure to them. So I flew to Ghana to have a one-on-one conversation with him. And when I saw him, I immediately wanted to attack him. Like, that was my initial response because of all the gremlins, all the years of just like
holding on.
Yes. And when we sat down, my wife was holding my hand and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm fine." So I was like, "You can go, let me and him talk." And we talked for maybe 20-25 minutes. And literally, I felt free. Like, by every comment, like, I felt the gremlin pop. Like, they were just disappearing. And by the end of the conversation, I was like, this is what the hell I was holding on to?
Wow.
I was like, this wasn't... First of all, going to Ghana is expensive.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not cheap. But it was one of the most life-changing... If it were not for my daughter and getting married, this was the most life-changing experience in my life. Just getting rid of all the hate, the animosity, the anger, all the space, and the mental capacity I gave him for free. Like, he's living here for free. And living here for free. And then I was able to let that go, which allowed me to create more space for doing other things like mentoring you. There's no way I could be your mentor those years ago. I just wouldn't have had the space for that. And now I do because of letting that go. And then on top of that, we went to the slave castles, which further pushed me to like, okay, this can't ever happen again. Not to say that we're in slavery times now, but there's some elements
we still
of it. You can make the case that we're just seeing a new age form of it. And by seeing what I saw and the conversation that I had with him, it kind of removed those hurdles and troubles and issues that you referenced in your question to create space to help others. And I'm glad I've done it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it was free.
Yes. So it's so worth it to let go of everything that is holding you back. I feel like we are so used to holding on to grudge, resentment, but in reality that's just hurting us. It's not really hurting anybody else, but you are the one breaking yourself down. So I appreciate you just saying that, because right now it's 2022 and I think it's a year of realization after all that we went through during the pandemic. And I believe this year should be the year where people let go so that they can build and create that capacity for other things that are going to help them be and get to where they want to be. I appreciate you. Like, I love you. There's no doubt. James knows I love him so much. But I thank you, seriously, for always supporting me and for always coming and being open to talk about your story. I thank you for watching and for tuning in. Please don't forget to share, subscribe, and like. And stay tuned for the next one.